Whether you're spending several days in the backcountry or you're doing a weekend of car camping, temperature rating for your sleeping bag is a major consideration for staying warm and having a restful night's sleep. Keep in mind that you are the source of heat in your sleeping bag, so along with temperature rating, you need to make sure your sleeping bag fits well. If the sleeping bag is too big or too long, you're going to have to heat up more space, and you may sleep colder than the actual temperature rating for the bag. Also, if your bag is too small for you, you're going to compress some of that insulation. So, along with temperature rating, the size of the sleeping bag really does matter. Most sleeping bags will have a temperature rating. Some will just have a flat 20 degree, 15 degree rating. Some sleeping bags will have a European norm or EN rating, and that is typically gives you an upper limit, a comfort, and a lower limit rating or a risk rating. You want to stay away from that lower limit because you're definitely going to be cold at that point, and you want to go more towards the comfort or the upper level rating. These temperature ratings are a really good place to start, but they're not a given, so there's lots of other variables to consider when choosing a sleeping bag, and we'll touch on those points. The first variable to consider is your sleeping pad. Now, sleeping pads also have temperature ratings. Most of the time it's called an R value, so the lower the R value of a sleeping pad, the lower thermo efficiency it's going to have. The higher R value, it's going to insulate you better from the ground, from the cold ground. So if you have a 0 degree sleeping bag, you're going to want to pair it with a 4-season sleeping pad. As well, if you have a summer sleeping bag, you're going to want to pair it with a sleeping pad that doesn't necessarily give you a lot of warmth. The second thing to talk about is the tent that you're in. So whether you're in a 3-season or a 4-season tent, keep in mind that it's going to be a little bit warmer inside the tent because you're trapping the heat, especially if you're in there with a couple other people. The third thing to consider is gender. So there are women-specific sleeping bags that tend to have an EN or a comfort rating for women. There's also sleeping bags that are non-gender specific, and they'll have a men's comfort rating and a women's comfort rating. So definitely keep that in mind. The next thing to think about is metabolism. Some people sleep colder and some people sleep warmer than others. So if you pick a 20-degree sleeping bag and you're normally a really cold sleeper, you might want to go down 10 or 15 degrees, just to get that comfort rating up a little bit more. Just as well, if you are a warm sleeper, you can get away with the lower limit that a sleeping bag is rated. Another thing to consider is just the clothing that you're wearing. So if you pick a sleeping bag that maybe doesn't have a hood, you want to save weight, wear a hat or wear some kind of insulating layer, as long as the clothing that you're wearing isn't going to be constrictive. And so, there's nothing wrong with getting a sleeping bag that's maybe a little bit warmer than you would like, and wearing some sort of a down jacket or a layer that isn't going to constrict any of the blood flow and that sort of thing. So clothing is definitely a good consideration if you're wearing long underwear or socks or something like that. Choosing a specific temperature rating can be a daunting task, and so I want to introduce the use of a sleeping bag liner. I have two here. This one's just a really lightweight sleeping bag liner. You can see how packable that is. I have another small one here, but the use of sleeping bag liner has a lot of purposes. You can use it just as a summer sheet, if it's really warm outside and you don't need a sleeping bag. You can also couple it with your sleeping bag to add warmth. There's sleeping bag liners that actually come with a temperature rating, so they'll say they improve the warmth by 10 or 15 degrees, and some others don't have a temperature rating. But all in all, it's a very useful thing. It even protects the inside of your bag, so if you're backpacking all day and you're calling your bag, you'll get sweat on the sleeping bag liner. They're really easy to wash, so you can just throw that in the wash when you get home. All in all, really packable and something very useful to couple with your bag. One thing I want to mention that you might find out there is a dual rated sleeping bag. So it'll have a rating of 55/35 or something along those lines. And the idea behind a 2 temperature rating sleeping bag is that one side of the bag is more lofty than the other side. So if it's 35 degrees, you would want to put the more lofty side up. So it's going to trap in more of your heat. If it's a warmer day or warmer night, you want to flip the bag to the other side. They're usually 2 different colors, so you can tell the difference between the 2 sides. And then that's not going to trap in as much of your heat. It's less, you know, it has less fill on the other side. And also, when you're sleeping on the sleeping bag itself, you're compressing that insulation anyway. So, you know, it's a nice consideration for people who are traveling, who might be, you know, sleeping outside one night, sleeping inside the next night. Just a consideration, something you might find out there. All in all, there's lots of considerations when choosing a temperature rating for your sleeping bag. Keep everything in mind and sleep well.